right, we're going to go there. Russia, China, the United States. What can we expect? What's coming? I'm going to share with you what we can. And this is according to Edgar Cayce. Very specific. I'm going to give his readings. I'm going to share something very important with you today because 2026 relies on you and your decision. You ready? Let's go. Welcome to Landria, Onkka on YouTube. Here to help you break through the fear. Are you in fear? There's nothing to fear, I assure you. So, out of Russia comes again the hope of the world. Edgar Cayce, reading 3976-29. That was June 22nd, 1944. Not America, not Europe, not a political system, Russia. Here's what makes this disturbing and fascinating. Cayce said this before the Cold War. And more importantly, did he believe what's coming next is already decided? I hope you'll subscribe, click that bell, and you'll be notified when I have more videos coming out. If you'd like to join my membership, you're getting my videos before everybody else, and a 3-part course of how to manifest. Today, we're going to walk through exactly what Cayce said about Russia, then the United States, then China, and finally the message most people miss. In addition to my critical message for you, I have my own message. I don't want you to skip that, and the instructions for a new earth that can change any of these predictions. And this is according to Cayce, because if you actually read Cayce's words, not the headlines, you discover something unexpected. He didn't predict a fixed future, okay? He described a conditional future. Do not fear the future. But we are set up for certain things to happen that I think are really interesting about these 3 countries. Our conditional future is one based on what people choose next. I think we're going in the right direction. It may not seem like it, but I'm going to show you that is not the case. I'm going to discuss the most important part of his prediction that's the key to our future and how anything can change if we choose it. This begins in 2026 as we enter critical decisions and most of all, reactions to everything that's taking place, not only by the power structures, but the people. Reactions will determine the outcome of these predictions. What you're seeing out there that appears to be an action toward peace is a reaction of negativity and violence that's not working. We're going to talk about that. I'm actually going to give you the blueprint steps to the new earth on this video. And this is according to myself and Edgar Cayce. I'm going to discuss what Cayce actually said about Russia, what he warned the United States about, why China appears quietly in the same reading, and the actual blueprint that must be put in place that changes everything. We're going to talk about that. Blueprint is critical because it's happening right now. So we're actually talking about the 2026 convergence and the prophecies leading up to it. Today we're looking at the 2 biggest players in particular, the United States and Russia. So I'm going to share Cayce's predictions and warnings to both of these superpowers. But your message today is much bigger than that. In each of my videos, I'm going to start sharing not just prophecies, predictions, and teaching of those before us, but I'm going to start sharing more of my own stories, my predictions, and my teachings that are going to lead us into a new era if you choose it. You are now a participant. So stay with me as I reveal the vital message that could turn your beliefs around and literally transform your own personal world and that around you. Let's talk about Russia. So this is the reading 3976-29. In Russia, there comes the hope of the world, not as that sometimes termed Bolshevism or communism, no, but freedom, freedom, that each man will live for his fellow man. Did you hear that part? That each man will live for his fellow man. He didn't say freedom to each individual to live the life that they want. Live life for his fellow man. A lot of analysts connected this to the dissolution of the Soviet Union on December 25th, 1991, and the resurgence of religious practice in Russia after decades of atheism. I disagree because I looked this up, and Russia's main religion right now is Orthodox Christianity, with the Russian Orthodox Church being the largest denomination And a significant portion of the population identifies as unaffiliated or atheists. And Islam is the second largest religion with a strong presence in certain religions. Let me share something with you that's happening in the United States that Cayce predicted. The spiritual evolution of Americans and actually the globe. The sign of an emergence of spirituality is the decline of participation in religious sects. And that is happening here in the United States. People are not saying they're not religious, they're just not identifying with the constraints of religion and going more into spirituality. That is a positive sign of the shift into a new earth. He explicitly stated this wasn't about government, the Soviet Union, or the political leaders. When that freedom came, it would release spiritual life in the nation that could influence the world. And I believe Russia has not achieved that yet. So why Russia? Cayce believed that because the Russian people had been suppressed for so long, their spiritual hunger was deeper, right? When we go to the dark night of the soul, where do you go? You go up from there. He saw a religious and spiritual renaissance emerging from that suppression. So while the West became obsessed with materialism, the East was being forced to go inward. I believe that is happening. I do not believe it's been achieved. I don't believe the US has achieved that either. But we do see the shift. And we see Americans getting further and further away from materialism. Is that you? Cayce wasn't talking about governments. He was talking about people reaching a breaking point. I think we're getting close to that. Here's a line that rarely gets quoted. It will take years for it to be crystallized. Nothing happens overnight. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is final. This is where the story gets uncomfortable because Cayce never said Russia alone carries the future. Mainstream news wants you to believe these two superpowers are destined to destroy each other, but the Akashic records tell a completely different story, one of balance, freedom, and a new spiritual frequency. One of my viewers, you said, it's about balance. It is not one side or the other. Planet Earth is meant to have a balance of challenges and triumphs. The balance is what will bring us into the new earth. Cayce also discussed the potential for an equitable partnership between Russia and the United States, recognizing Russia's vast resources and the US's developmental capabilities. Every nation is playing a role simultaneously, which brings us to the United States. The US, a warning, not a promise. In reading 261-21, Cayce said, America, listen to me, Americans, America must remain, as it were, the balance of power, not only in the money forces of the world, but those influences that will later be for the manning of those powers. This doesn't mean to remain in materialism. It's talking about a shift that will help the world. What is he saying? A balance of power means if America loses balance, the world destabilizes. We must keep the balance. And then he delivered this statement before America entered World War II. He said, and this applies to today. This is true of all situations regarding our countries in conflict. This too, if the people pray and live as they pray, will pass. That was reading 1949-1. He said, if. What's the key here? If the people pray and live as they pray. Now, we've talked about these events going on here in the US, this violence. You can say, well, there's a reason for that. Violence is not acceptable in a new earth. It just isn't. If you think violence is justified under any circumstances, just remember there's a cause and effect. Even if you can justify it, there will be an effect. If it's a lower frequency in its violence, it's not of the new earth. It cannot be. There are other choices. Cayce believed entire wars. You guys are, some of you are so concerned you think it's inevitable we're going to go into this. I say we will not. Cayce believed entire wars could shift depending on collective consciousness. So let's talk about the US. If Russia brings the spiritual hope, where does that leave the US? In reading 261-21, given on April 28, 1936, Cayce spoke about global tensions leading to a situation. The whole of Europe may be said to be looking rather to America for security in the monetary activities of new associations in world influence. America must remain, as it were, the balance of power not only in the money forces of the world, but those influences that will later be for the manning of those powers. This reading ties directly to the idea that America would become a pivotal nation in the world's stability, a theme that is often interpreted as part of its future geopolitical role. Here's the convergence no one's talking about. Cayce didn't see US versus Russia. He saw them as two halves of a whole. One provides the structure and stability, the US. The other provides the resources and the new spiritual spark, Russia. So in reading 397610, Other Prophecies on World Fairs, Cayce indicated that Europe's troubles, like war and economic breakdown, would cause financial capital to flow to the United States, supporting its eventual rise in influence. Well, you could say that was World War II. But there are other things he says that affects what's going on right now. It's been interpreted as foreseeing America's development as a major global economic power. So Cayce saw the U.S. playing a role as a stabilizing force in world finance and influence, not materialism. This is global, which means others will benefit greatly. Let's move on to China. In the same reading where he spoke about Russia, Cayce mentioned China. According to the sources, descriptions of China's future role center on a profound spiritual awakening that he believed would eventually influence the world. That hasn't happened yet. His primary predictions for China include the cradle of Christianity. The quote is, "The cradle of Christianity is applied in the lives of men." This suggests a future where Christian principles are not just taught as religion, but actively practiced in daily life. He famously predicted that tomorrow China will awake. Who would guess Russia and China? This is a big deal. This could be a game changer. He clarified that while this awakening may seem far off as man counts time, it is considered only a day in the heart of God. So Cayce saw the Eastern nations as significant players in a future global spiritual transformation. All right, not taking over, none of this other garbage. We're talking about spirituality. That brings us into oneness. This is the new earth. Cayce reviewed China's spiritual development as part of a broader set of global future trends. And China's awakening would be a critical component of the world's long-term spiritual evolution. We must stop thinking of ourselves as countries. Just think of it as the evolution of spirituality changing the world. Have the ego step back and not place names on who is going to lead the charge. Cayce's predictions were not intended to cause fear, but to empower individuals to realize they are critical players whose personal transformations can literally transform the world. We're going back into the individual choice and free will. By choosing freedom and concern for others over political ideology or materialism, individuals can help crystallize the spiritual renaissance Cayce foresaw, effectively preventing the old world cycle of destruction. This will prevent the old world cycle of destruction. Now, what we're seeing right now is the repeat patterns of violence against violence. We have all these reasons. Violence is violence. There is another way. We will find it. What are the common 5D signs of a spiritual breakthrough? Let's go through that. And how can one stay centered despite the 3D theater that's playing out? 5D spiritual breakthrough, often referred to as the New Earth perspective, it's characterized by a shift in frequency and consciousness away from conflict and toward global unity. That's it. It can be no other way. Everything you think and do must be focused on that. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The common signs and elements of such a breakthrough include: 1, recognizing the frequency split. A primary sign of 5D breakthrough is the realization that the world split is not occurring between countries or political leaders, but between frequencies. While 3D thinking remains trapped in geopolitical theater, them, us, Democrats, Republicans, they, pointing figures, if you're in they, but there are no buts on my channel. That thinking remains trapped in the geopolitical theater, fear-based narratives, right? When there's another person that is them, you are in fear-based narratives. You see them as an enemy. You are separating yourself. That cannot exist in the new earth. And the energy of war, That's the energy of war. A person experiencing a 5D breakthrough shifts into their focus toward a new spiritual frequency. There are no enemies. There are only challenges, and a balance must be put into place. All right, a balance. We will still have challenges. How do we combat these? Through peace. There is no other solution in the new earth. The next thing we must do, moving beyond separation in the high frequency realm of 5D, there is no separation. If you said, but Landria, no buts on my channel. I don't want to hear anything you say after that because there is no but. It is or it is not. You participate or you do not. And you'll find all kinds of reasons why you can't. And you will remain in the basement, ego, materialistic way of living that's always fighting for something. Common signs of this breakthrough include abandoning team mentality, moving away from the need to pick sides, Team America versus Team Russia, and refusing to feed the energy of conflict, right? Don't feed it. Embracing oneness, choosing to become one with the community of our species and all Earth inhabitants. Universal concern, prioritizing freedom and concern for others over political or nationalistic ideologies. Living as you pray. This is Edgar Cayce's message. A spiritual breakthrough involves a transition from passive hope to active co-creation. This is marked by alignment of action, aligning your daily physical actions with your spiritual beliefs rather than just hoping for a better world and thinking things are just happening to you or around you. You're participating. You're embodying peace, right? This is what's required. Realizing that to have peace, you must be peace. There are no exceptions. Assuming responsibility. You're that powerful. You're co-creator. Understanding that you are a critical player whose personal choices and transformation can literally transform your world and then, of course, the collective, because you and it are not separate. Rejection of fear and materialism. This is going to be tough. The sources suggest that as people move toward the 2026 convergence, we're in it, those experiencing a breakthrough will display a specific change in focus, leaving fear behind, consciously stepping out of fear-based cycles and old world energies. Doing the same thing. We've been wrong. Let's fight it. Let's harm. Let's take sides. And the divide becomes bigger and bigger and bigger amongst the two egos. The new earth is not involved in that. It's over here creating a new way, a solution. Inward focus, shifting away from being obsessed with materialism and instead going inward to satisfy a deeper spiritual hunger. Focusing on hope. If that's all you have, looking for spiritual breakthroughs and hope in unexpected places rather than focusing on the destruction portrayed in mainstream narratives. You must cling to that hope until you realize you don't even have to hope. You can create the new world. You can create the new spiritual renaissance. Ultimately, the sources describe this breakthrough as the crystallization of a spiritual renaissance. Is that exciting? This is manifested as a new spiritual spark that emphasizes spiritual development over economic or political control. Because when we go in that, we're working on these problems. We're solving issues. We are not trying to control. We're trying to share, repair, manifest, create, and we come together to do it. There is no separation in that. Only solutions. The spiritual development will solve all political economic issues because we will operate as one beautiful mind with individual choices within it. You will not lose your character and your individual free will. In fact, it'll be greater, more expansive, and it will contribute to something so beautiful. So here's the pattern across all these statements. Russia, spiritual pressure. America, moral responsibility. China, ancient wisdom, reawakening. Cayce was mapping human consciousness cycles. We talked about cycles in the last few videos, and it's coming back around. We're hitting that low point. You're going to see a lot of chaos going into beautiful renewal. He warned that obsession with prophecy is dangerous. Edgar Cayce said that because he said when people believe the future is fixed, they stop taking responsibility. Oh, it's going to happen anyways. Let's just hoard. Doesn't matter about my neighbor. They've already made their future up. Not true. And your participation can affect theirs. Prophecy is a teaching. Cayce made this unmistakably clear. The future only solidifies when people stop choosing. When you say, oh, that future, that's it, you stop choosing and you hand it over into a prediction that can come true because you believe it is in stone and that that's how things are and you're not doing anything to change it. Prayer without action does nothing. Prayer is so important. Belief without behavior changes nothing. And I don't mean the old behavior. I'm talking about new behaviors. He said outcomes depend on whether people pray, live as they pray. That is the message today. Not just pray to some outside source. Live as you pray. You must become it. It is done, says the Bible, and so it is done. So it is. Live that peace. So this is my message. Yes, I'm going to read it, but I wrote this for you as you seek answers and predictions, tarot card readings, channelers, and those that you believe hold power in our future. I want to share something of great importance that is at the root of all of it. This is the one thing that all of these prophecies point to. Let's start with the scientific facts that everything is one energy, but affected individually by other factors. While we're divided into countries, each person is an individual within them. You are an individual experience with free will. Neither Americans nor Russians are one thing. America, I know what it's like to go over to Europe and have people treat me a certain way, not so nice, because I'm American. I am a walking individual, and we must see that in one another and the beauty of it, and allow that person to express themselves and find out what is really going on before we paint everything as groups or enemies. And let's take that a step further. You are not even an individual, but you're an energy field of one that operates as a co-creator in a chosen journey. There is no true separation, but each component, because it is part of one, affects the whole. Your thought affects the whole of all creation. You're not a country. You're not even just this individual. You are of all things, and everything is connected. In the higher frequency, the realm of all power that simply delivers results based on co-creative choices, there's no separation. The highest choice any human can make in the transition of our planet to a golden era is to become one with the community of our species and all Earth inhabitants. Everything you've consumed, everything you've said and thought, treating others as you would treat yourself connects you to unity and oneness. This is ascension. No matter what country anyone lives in, personal choice always rules. This is how events like World War II were diffused by individuals, both German and within the Allies, who made higher choices. All right? That was an old world. We went to war. We no longer have to function that way. While the general public wants to know the future of their country, they're missing the most important statement and reading that Cayce gave. This critical year of massive energetic shift depends on what I am about to tell you. Yes, the direction of humanity relies on this. The 5D perspective, the New Earth perspective, is realizing that the split isn't between countries, it's between frequencies. Cayce famously said about America, if the people pray and live as they pray, that was his condition. The future isn't set in stone, it depends on us. Can you live that prayer that you pray for the world? If that prayer is in oneness, I've heard people pray things that were separation, that took sides. That is a low frequency, ego-based. And I'm not sure it even qualifies as a prayer. It's just an ego-based desire. So living as you pray is the most important takeaway. Cayce didn't discuss America, China, and Russia to scare us. He gave these prophecies to empower us, to let us know it can be changed. He said the United States would be a safe haven if we live as we pray. A safe haven. That means aligning your actions with your spiritual beliefs. You cannot just hope for peace. You have to be peace. This is the co-creator's choice and free will that you hold no matter what country you live in or whatever religion you were brought up with, right? You don't have to believe that anymore if it's not in your heart. It is the individual prayer and living the reality that you pray for that will transform the world. You are this important. It cannot be anything less because it is one. You are the finger on the body. How is it being used? Is it injured or cut off? It will affect the efficiency of the entire body. As we move further into 2026, don't get distracted by the geopolitical theater. Look for the spiritual. Focus solely on that. The old world energy wants you to focus on the conflict. And so it's going to drag you in. And as soon as something happens and you thought you were all ascended and spiritually aligned, you see yourself taking sides and saying, this is right, that's wrong. Oh, I saw the video. This is how it was. One cannot know. No one has these answers. Taking sides is a low frequency. Compassion, love, creation, expansion will take us into a new earth. We can solve these problems. The old world wants you to pick a side, and as soon as you hear that out there or somebody saying it, they are in the basement. The penthouse awaits you, my friend. Only you have the power to get on that elevator, push that button, and go up. Team America, Team Russia, that's 3D thinking. There's a great manipulation taking place for those who want to control outcomes. This can only be done by convincing that you must think and act a specific way. How do you take a free country like the United States and affect it in a negative manner? You manipulate it through brainwashing, patterns, media, beliefs, go into the emotions, hit them where it really hurts, and get people to go into conflict with one another. This is what you should buy. These are the pills you should take. Here's what you should eat. Here's what you need to do to be enlightened. Here's what you need to do to be loyal to your country. It's brainwashing. And you have the power to think any way you choose. It's up to you. You got to go here first. So next, look for the hope coming from unexpected places. What do I mean by this? Everything is possible. Everything is possible. If you say no, then you're telling me that source is limited. Is source limited? No? Then everything is possible and everything exists. And our role is a choice maker. There are those who will stand back, and there will be many who step up to lead the way to peace. These are the demonstrators of the new earth that do not argue or protest. They create, demonstrate peace, and the results of those actions of peace. They must be lived and offered to others. Only the demonstration of this way of life and the amazing results they produce will tip the scales for many who were choosing ego over expansion. When you expand, your manifesting powers are amazing, but they will be on the highest frequency. And that abundance that you choose for yourself will be global. You'll see others benefit. Wouldn't that be beautiful? You don't want to separate that abundance, do you? Or that health or that joy? That's oneness. The prevention of global destruction is not a strategy geopolitical. It's a result of individual free will and co-creative choices because everything is one energy. The collective direction of humanity is determined by the frequency and actions chosen by individuals, not those in charge of countries or states or anything else. You cannot feed the energy of war. You have to embrace 5D perspective, choosing to focus on spiritual breakthroughs, recognize the power of individual action. That's your role here. So what can we expect next? Without fear, we're going to discuss this. Not collapse, not salvation, pressure. Pressure. Pressure exposes what isn't aligned. Institutions will shake, beliefs fracture, identities dissolve. Well, identity, somebody said, I'm a rainbow child. I was told that. What does that mean? I said, it just means you have a mission. But we're all beautiful and perfect. There's no name that describes you. That's separatism. When you say, am I a chosen one? I'll say, yes, everyone is. We are all perfect. You may have names, teacher or doctor, parent. All of these names are just missions that you have, but none of us is uniquely above one another, but we are unique, and that's beautiful. This is not a punishment. This is a course correction we're going through. The more individuals that choose peace internally, the less violent the external correction needs to be. You're going to see the more of us go into peace, it will calm down. The events of the planet and how she operates with volcanoes and all these events will start to calm down. They will not be as drastic as what was predicted with Cayce. That hasn't even come to pass yet. Edgar Cayce did not predict a future we must endure. He taught a future we are creating: Russia, America, China. These global events can be changed. This was Edgar Cayce's message, and it is in his readings. What will you choose? You must start today. Each action creates a result. What will this action create? Was it an action on a lower frequency or a higher one? These are difficult decisions to make. I hope that you will go down in my description, join my membership. We're doing some cool stuff in there. You're getting these videos first. I have all kinds of products down there. Not all of them are in Amazon, but these are companies making amazing decisions with no toxins, no vegan, no plastics. Americans are walking around with microplastics, and we wonder why our children are sick. We can change it with what we consume, what we create and place out there. So go down there. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Start with your water filter. I have a discount code, but if you think it's expensive, I want you to total up all those plastic bottles that you buy and those toxins that you drink. It's going to be a lot less expensive. Yes, we can live in a world that's not so materialistic, that's even greater than all the material and gold in the world. And it starts now. Go explore that down there. I can't wait to talk to you about what's coming up shortly here. Just in a few months, we're going to prepare you for that. And this message today was one of the most important ones. You are whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Everything else is a veil. It's an illusion. It's a belief. It's a story. You can change the story because you have no limitations. I'll see you in the next video. Namaste.